Hi everyone, something a little bit different this week. I will not be discussing a specific aspect of lore, but rather my top 5 picks for what could be the next Dark Souls 3 DLC expansion. I'll be basing this kind of from a lore perspective and what I would want to see from a lore perspective in the DLC. And so yeah, and also be sure to stick around until the end of the video because I do have a bit of a sneak peek for an upcoming project which is going to take a lot of time, but I am really looking forward to letting you guys have a look at it. Also be sure to come say hi to me on Twitter. It's at angeredcourier or angered_courier. I'll pop it up on the screen. Have a look. Let's get into it. So what do we know so far? Well, we know that 2 large expansions are planned, not one like Bloodborne. First releasing in fall, which I guess is August or September. I'm Australian, so I don't really know what fall is. And the second coming out in early 2017, so spread over a little bit of time. Now, Miyazaki, the creator of the Soulsborne games, was interviewed by GameSpot, which I'll put in the description, that does provide us some clues as to what we can expect. Firstly, he stated that he wasn't 100% happy with the map design of the base game of Dark Souls 3, which I can kind of see where he comes from. It's not as traversable as it was in Dark Souls 1 in that certain way, where you kind of start off, you've got a lot of different ways you can go, and you can pretty much walk from one location to the next without really any warping bonfires and stuff. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that the warping bonfires in Dark Souls 3 was a bad choice. It definitely helped me get around when I was making lore videos and stuff like that, but I do understand where he's coming from. So I guess we can expect a bit more freedom and exploration and progress in the DLC that's similar to Dark Souls 1. Thankfully, he still is in the director's chair, which is what I really wanted to hear, and is working with the co-directors. So one of the co-directors worked on Bloodborne, and the other worked on Dark Souls 2. So Miyazaki says, "I'm confident it will bring a different side of Dark Souls 3 to our players in a special way." So, what could that mean? That could only mean good things, right? I hope. Now, time has consistently been messed around with in the past DLCs, or memories in Dark Souls 2. The DLC will probably be constructed as to not to disturb the canon of the main story, so they can kind of, mess around with that without worrying of breaking everything in the process, and to probably show us like an alternate reality or something like that that kind of opens up the game, which I'm really excited for because they do get quite bold with their DLC. So, onto the list. So from a lore perspective, the following 5 would be the most interesting topics to cover in the DLC, in my opinion. Feel free to disagree, leave a comment, tell me what you want to see instead, but these are my 5 picks, so here we go. Velka and her partners are a very interesting bunch who seem to have great influence over Lordran, with her heretical tales even being spread as far as Lothric through the Corvians. Cornyx may even be related to Velka in some way, seeing as he is referred to as a crow, with his name translating to crow in Latin, and his clothes resembling the feathers of a crow. I think it would be fascinating to further explore this covenant and fan favourite, and their involvement in the affairs of NPCs. Consider that Velka takes interest in any and all sinners who have killed unjustly, and her followers' protection of the Dark Ember in the Painted World implies a connection to occultism, which is another mostly untouched topic. We know that occult weapons are forged to kill gods, so that could give us some great insight into the downfall of kingdoms who relied on their deities. There is also implications that Velka may have had a hand in the purging of New Londo, so information about that would be thrilling to know about as well. I think it would be awesome to listen to NPCs like Lautrec repent his sins, spilling his secrets to the rogue deity. Imagine what we could learn about elusive characters. Presumably, the DLC would take place in Karim, which is a fascinating location in itself that we've heard about throughout the series. Also, the black set looks awesome, and I'd love to see it with those sweet, sweet cloth physics in Dark Souls 3. While doing my video investigating Karthus, I got very interested in how it may have looked and operated back in its heyday. We've never really had a desert environment in a Dark Souls game before, which could have an entirely different feel and atmosphere from what we've already experienced. Think about Wolnir and how he would have been like, as a brilliant conqueror before he fell to the temptation of the Abyss. What kind of ruler was he? Was he respected? Was he feared? Did the kingdom ever engage in battle with the Abyss Watchers? If my theories that I brought up in my Karthus video have any validity to them, seeing a primordial serpent like Karth in Karthus with Wolnir might offer answers to questions we still have. Another thing I would love to find out is who trained the Karthus swordsman. Was it Sir Alon, or a completely different quote-unquote Eastern warrior? We will have to wait and see. Mirror is a land we've heard a lot about over the course of the series, home to Lucatiel and Azlatiel, the Order of the Shadow Knights, possibly Hodrick, Creighton, and if you consider Mirror to be the obscure Eastern land referenced, then it is home to Shiva and Sir Alon as well. In terms of lore, Mirror is a location that absolutely teems with information. While it may be no more than a smouldering husk at this point, it would be interesting to see where all these legendary warriors came from. Origin stories always add a lot to the conversation, and going to Mirror might explain what happened to Sirius's parents, for instance, if they were truly surrounded by enemies, as we are told. Then we might get insight from nations all around Mirror, especially multiplying its usefulness and possibilities for expanding our knowledge past Lordran, Drangleic, and Lothric. A society of hollows seems antithetical in concept. We have seen throughout the games that hollows are mindless creatures for the most part, attacking anything they deem hostile, which is a lot. Perhaps that is why the Sable Church of Londor is so fascinating. Not only is Londor described as a society, but as a church, an organised religion, complete with their own sorcerers and warriors. The church represents a beacon of hope for hollows, the accursed, the unsavable masses of the world, similar to how Catholicism presented itself during the pre-Crusade era, as a conduit for salvation. We are given quite a lot of information about the church throughout the game from Yoel, Yuria, and item descriptions, but it would be quite amazing to see how the church actually looks, and how it functions in more detail. It would make for great lore discussion and would be a worthy DLC in my eyes, especially if we were able to, after completing the game with the Londor ending. It would show us how the world of Dark Souls actually looks after the presence of the old gods are completely washed away, a question that has stuck in the mind of fans since the very first game. A battle between Londor and the remnants of the Way of White would be incredible to behold, and we would have a much clearer picture not only of hollowing, but of the structure of the ages, and how the Age of Hollows may be a permanent break from the existing ages that we have seen in the past games. I don't know about you, but for me, the Four Kings fight in Dark Souls 1 was one of the most memorable fights in the series. Not so much for the bosses themselves, but for the environment that the fight is set in. I remember jumping off the steps at the bottom of the spiral staircase for the first time, into the endless blackness, and instantly feeling very unnerved. The complete lack of depth perception, the feeling like you're not really running on anything, and the Four Kings trying to ruin my day all came together as an unforgettable encounter. The Abyss is so terrifying because it's formless and incomprehensible. Bloodborne investigates these fears a lot, regarding the formless unknown. If the untended graves somehow represent an area taken over by the Abyss, then it would be possible to stage the DLC on solid ground, but absent of sun or fire. Apart from the concept of ages, the Abyss might represent the biggest mystery in the game. What is the Abyss? How does it relate to humanity and the souls of men? It is another force entirely, similar to the Great Ones from Bloodborne. The Abyss actually benefits from not revealing itself to us, but it would be fascinating to observe and be in the presence of the force that gave Manus his power. To go toe-to-toe with something that trumps any knight, any player, any god. For me, that would be the perfect way to finish off the trilogy, and might carry some cool lore to boot.
Ah, there's something I want to tell you. A bit of wisdom from the eminent master Logarius. Once, a scholar betrayed his fellows at Byrgenwerth, and brought forbidden blood back with him to Cainhurst Castle. It was there that the first of the inhuman Vilebloods was born. The Vilebloods are fiendish creatures who threaten the purity of the Church's blood healing. The ruler of the Vilebloods is still alive today. And so, to honor my master's wishes, I search for the path to Cainhurst Castle. In his time, Master Logarius led his executioners into Cainhurst Castle to cleanse it of the vile bloods. But all did not go well, and Master Logarius became a blessed anchor, guarding us from evil. Tragic, tragic times.